We often think of battles as things we can see, the physical wars, the conflicts, the challenges that happen out in the world. But what if I told you there's a battle happening every day inside of you, in your mind, in your thoughts, in your emotions? It's a battle that's not always visible to the outside world, but it's deeply real. This is what we call a spiritual attack. Now, a spiritual attack doesn't always look like what we might expect. It's not always dramatic or overt. It's often subtle. It can sneak into our thoughts, clouding our judgment, influencing our emotions, or even changing the way we see ourselves and the world around us. These attacks don't always come from an external source. They can come from within us. They are the doubts that rise unbidden in the middle of the night, the fears that gnaw at us when we're alone with our thoughts, the negative self-talk that convinces us we're not good enough, or the heaviness that tells us things will never get better. But here's the thing, while these attacks are real, they are also not the end of the story. They don't define us. They're just part of the human experience. Everyone at some point feels under attack mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. You may feel a storm of confusion or sadness, or like there's a constant weight pressing on your heart. This doesn't mean you're weak or failing. It means you're human and you're in the midst of a battle that we all face. So what do we do in the face of spiritual attack? First, we recognize that we don't have to fight alone. There is strength within us, a power within our spirit that can rise above the mental noise, above the confusion, and above the doubt. But we have to first acknowledge that the battle exists. Recognizing that your mind is under spiritual attack is the first step toward reclaiming your peace. But here's the thing, the battle doesn't have to be won by sheer willpower alone. It's not about gritting your teeth and forcing yourself to feel better. It's about shifting your perspective. It's about understanding that the thoughts that come into your mind are not always the truth of who you are. The fears, the doubts, the negativity, those are often lies coming from a place of fear and darkness, not from the truth of your being. And when you begin to recognize that, when you begin to separate who you really are from the voices that try to tear you down, you start to shift the power back into your hands. One of the most powerful things you can do when you're facing the spiritual attack is to center yourself in your faith, whatever that may look like for you. For some, it's a deep connection to a higher power. For others, it might be finding strength in their values, their purpose, or their community, but the key is to remind yourself that you are never truly alone. There is always a force of love, of light, of goodness that is available to you. And when you align yourself with that force, whether through prayer, meditation, quiet reflection, or just a deep, heartfelt moment of connection, you begin to build up an inner strength that can protect you against any attack that comes your way. Now, let's be clear, you're not going to avoid every negative thought or every moment of doubt. That's part of life. But what you can do is learn how to navigate those moments, how to calm your mind, how to take control of your inner world. You can choose to reject the lies and focus on what is true, that you are worthy, you are capable, you are loved, and that no attack, no matter how strong, can take away the power of your spirit. And remember, healing is not just about resisting the attack, it's also about replenishing the spaces in your heart and mind that the attack has tried to drain. So when you feel under siege, take a moment to pause. Practice mindfulness. Affirm your worth. Reconnect with your purpose. Surround yourself with positivity. Reach out for support. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is simply give yourself the gift of rest mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In this journey of life, we all face moments of attack. But I want you to remember, you don't have to let those moments define you. You have everything inside of you to rise above. When you stand firm in your truth, when you tap into your strength, when you align with the light within you, you become invincible, not because you don't feel pain, but because you know that you are so much more than any thought or fear that comes against you. You are resilient. You are powerful. And you are capable of overcoming any attack in mind, body, or spirit. The mind is the battlefield where so much of life's struggles unfold. It's where our deepest fears and our greatest dreams collide. It's where we wrestle with doubts, anxieties, hopes, and desires. And often it's in the quiet recesses of our minds where the most intense battles are fought, battles that others might never see. But that can determine the course of our lives. The mind is powerful. It shapes everything we experience. It influences how we see ourselves, how we interpret the world around us, and how we respond to the challenges that come our way. Every thought we think, every belief we hold, every emotion we feel starts in the mind. And because the mind is so influential, it also becomes the most vulnerable point of attack. It's where negativity, fear, confusion, and even despair can begin to take root and spread, often before we even realize what's happening. It's easy to overlook just how much our thoughts control us, how much they dictate our emotional state and our behavior. We can go through life feeling like we're responding to external circumstances, like things are just happening to us, and we have no control. But in reality, it's the thoughts that we allow to linger in our minds that shape our responses. And those thoughts, whether they are conscious or unconscious, are often where the battle begins. When we think of battles, we usually think of something loud and chaotic: wars, conflicts, noise. But the spiritual battle for our minds is quiet. It's the whisper of insecurity that creeps in when we're about to take a risk. It's the sudden rush of fear that makes us hesitate when we're on the verge of something great. It's the self-doubt that makes us question whether we're good enough, strong enough, or worthy enough. It's the moment when a small negative thought snowballs into an avalanche of worry, and before we know it, we're paralyzed by fear, anxiety, and confusion. We don't always realize how much of this inner turmoil is a result of spiritual attacks, how much of this self-doubt, confusion, and negativity is part of a larger struggle for control over our minds. And yet, the truth is that the mind is the most strategic place to wage any kind of spiritual war. If the enemy can capture our thoughts, then it can capture our lives. It can steer us off course, paralyze us with indecision, or make us feel like we're powerless to change. When our minds are clouded with doubt and fear, it becomes harder to see our own strength, to believe in our potential, or to hold on to our sense of purpose. But here's where the power of awareness comes in. The moment we begin to recognize that the mind is where the battle is taking place, we gain the ability to intervene. We can start to challenge the negative thought patterns that arise. We can start to question those limiting beliefs that tell us we're not enough. We can start to take back the power that has been slowly eroded by fear and doubt. And let's not forget that we don't have to fight this battle alone. The mind can feel like a lonely place sometimes, but there are ways to protect it, to shield it, and to strengthen it. Meditation, prayer, mindfulness, and deep reflection are all powerful tools that allow us to quiet the noise and regain control over our thoughts. Through these practices, we can learn to discern which thoughts are ours and which ones are not, distinguishing between the voice of our true selves and the negative chatter that tries to take over. When we begin to claim the mind as our battleground, we open up the possibility of transformation. We can replace the fearful thoughts with empowering ones, the doubts with affirmations of truth, and the confusion with clarity. And we can do all of this by simply choosing where we focus our attention, by deciding which thoughts we allow to take root and which ones we let go. In many ways, the mind is like a garden if we tend to it with care, if we nurture it with positive thoughts, if we weed out the negativity and feed it with love, peace, and purpose, it can become a fertile ground for growth and transformation. But if we leave it untended, if we let the weeds of fear, doubt, and insecurity take over, the garden becomes overrun and we lose sight of the beauty that lies within. The mind is the starting point. Everything begins there. And when we realize that we can begin to take control, we can begin to choose what we believe, how we think, and how we feel. We can start to rewrite the story of our lives from the inside out, knowing that no attack, no matter how strong, can ultimately defeat us as long as we remain vigilant, aware, and determined to protect the sacred space of our minds. So in this battle for our minds, we are not passive participants. We're active warriors armed with the power of our thoughts, the strength of our spirit, and the clarity of our purpose. The more we recognize the power we have over our minds, the more we take back control of our lives, and we begin to see that the real victory doesn't come from the outside world, but from within. Negative thought patterns are like invisible chains that can bind us, keeping us stuck in cycles of self-doubt, fear, and hopelessness. They are often so deeply ingrained in our minds that we don't even realize they're there. They slip in quietly, almost imperceptibly, shaping the way we view ourselves, our circumstances, and our potential. And what's most dangerous about them is that they can shape our reality, because as we all know, what we believe about ourselves and the world often becomes our truth. These negative thought patterns manifest in many forms. Sometimes it's the inner voice that whispers, "You're not good enough," or "You'll never succeed," or "Why even try? It's all going to fall apart anyway." Other times it's the more insidious, less obvious thoughts. The moments when we start doubting our worth, questioning our abilities, or feeling like we don't belong. They're not always loud or dramatic. In fact, most of the time they show up as a quiet, consistent hum in the background of our minds, subtly eroding our confidence and our sense of peace. These thoughts, while they may feel like truth, are not who we truly are, because they are simply patterns. Thoughts that have been repeated so often that we've come to believe them as part of our identity. They are the voices that tell us we're not enough, that we're too flawed, too broken, too incapable. They tell us that happiness or success is for other people, not for us. They reinforce the idea that our circumstances define us, that we can't rise above the limitations we've been given. But what's powerful about these patterns is that they are not set in stone. Just because you've thought something for years doesn't mean it's an unchangeable fact. Negative thought patterns are habits of the mind, and like any habit, they can be broken with awareness, intention, and effort. It starts with recognizing them, understanding how they show up in your life, and questioning their validity. One of the most important steps in breaking negative thought patterns is learning to challenge the stories we've been telling ourselves, the stories that say we're not enough, that we don't deserve success, that we're too broken to heal. When we start to recognize these thoughts for what they are, false narratives, we can begin to rewrite them. We can start telling ourselves a new story. One that's rooted in truth and possibility, not fear and limitation. For example, when the thought comes up that says, "I'm not good enough," you can respond with a new truth. "I am worthy just as I am, and I am always growing and learning." When the thought says, "I'll never be successful," you can replace it with, "Success is a journey, and I am taking one step forward at a time." When the voice of fear says, "I'll never be happy," you can remind yourself, happiness is a choice, and I have the power to create joy in my life. These new thoughts don't come overnight. Changing a deeply ingrained negative thought pattern takes time, patience, and consistency. But just like a negative pattern can be built over time, a positive one can be created with practice. The more you challenge the negativity and replace it with affirmations of truth, the more you start to rewire your brain. And over time, these new thoughts will start to become your default, slowly crowding out the negativity that once ruled your mind. It's also crucial to remember that negative thoughts don't define who we are. They're simply thoughts, not facts. And when we start seeing them as such, we can detach ourselves from them. We can acknowledge the thought without letting it control us, without believing that it's the full truth of who we are. This shift in perspective is liberating because it means that our thoughts don't have to hold power over us. We have the power to choose our response, to choose which thoughts we feed and which we let go. This isn't to say that you won't have moments of doubt or fears. Those things are part of being human. But over time, the more you strengthen your awareness and resilience against negative thought patterns, the less power they will have over you. You'll start to recognize them for what they are, temporary, passing, and not a reflection of your worth or potential. Another powerful tool in breaking negative thought patterns is self-compassion. So often, we are our own harshest critics. We berate ourselves for mistakes, for perceived shortcomings, and for not measuring up to some impossible standard. But what if we treated ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend? What if instead of beating ourselves up for every perceived flaw, we offered ourselves compassion and grace? Self-compassion is a revolutionary act of love. It allows us to let go of the guilt and shame that fuel negative thinking and opens up space for healing and growth. Ultimately, negative thought patterns don't have to define your lives. They're simply patterns, habits of the mind that can be changed. The first step is awareness, followed by the intentional work of replacing them with thoughts that are rooted in love, truth, and possibility. It takes time, but with patience, practice, and a commitment to your own well-being, you can break free from the cycle of negativity and step into a life filled with self-empowerment, peace, and joy. Remember, you are not the sum of your negative thoughts. You are so much more than that. You are capable, worthy, and deserving of all the love, success, and happiness that life has to offer. And it all begins with the thoughts you choose to believe. When we talk about spiritual attacks, it's easy to assume that they always come from external forces, something or someone outside of us trying to cause harm. The truth, however, is that the most powerful attacks often come from within. They begin as internal struggles, the fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs that arise from our own minds and emotions. These attacks, whether external or internal, are real, but their impact is determined not only by their source, but also by how we respond to them. External attacks, in many ways, are the easiest to identify. They show up as challenges or obstacles that seem to come from the outside world, criticism from others, betrayal, conflict, or even difficult circumstances that feel beyond our control. You may find yourself facing harsh words from someone close to you, an unexpected setback in your career, or a string of unfortunate events that leave you feeling helpless and vulnerable. These are the external forces that seem to challenge our peace and stability, and they often trigger feelings of anger, resentment, or frustration. It's natural to want to point the finger outward when things aren't going well. After all, if someone or something is causing harm, it's easy to believe that the problem lies outside of us. But while these external attacks are real, it's important to remember that how we respond to them is what truly determines their effect on our lives. The enemy may try to use external circumstances to throw us off balance, but it's our internal state, our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that decides whether or not we'll be overcome. The external attacks may be the spark, but the internal response is what fuels the fire. If we meet external criticism with defensiveness or anger, if we respond to hardship with a mindset of defeat, we allow the external to dictate our inner peace. The danger of internal attacks is that they are often invisible, unlike external threats, which we can see and address. Internal attacks operate in the quiet corners of our minds, whispering doubts and fears that we may not even be fully aware of. We can go through life feeling weighed down by these thoughts without realizing just how much power they hold over us. Internal attacks can create a fog that clouds our judgment, making it difficult to see the truth of who we are and what we are capable of. They can convince us that our past mistakes define us, that our failures are permanent, or that we are unworthy of love, success, and happiness. But the good news is that internal attacks can be overcome. While external attacks may feel like things happening to us, internal attacks are within our control. We may not be able to control the negative circumstances that come from outside, but we always have the power to control our inner response. By shifting the way we think and by challenging the beliefs that no longer serve us, we can reclaim our power and peace. The first step is awareness, recognizing when our thoughts are being hijacked by negativity or fear and choosing to redirect them. It's about realizing that just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. Not every negative thought is a fact, and not every emotion is a reflection of reality, ability to change the narrative, to reject the lies that tried to define us, and to embrace the truth of our worth and potential. So in some ways, internal attacks are even more dangerous because they become our default mode if we're not careful. If we've spent years feeding our minds with negative beliefs, it becomes harder to see beyond them. We start to think that these attacks are just a part of who we are, when in reality they are simply the result of long-standing patterns that we've allowed to take hold. But once we recognize that we are the ones in control of our thoughts, the power to change our lives is in our hands. In moments when external attacks feel overwhelming, when the world seems to be throwing one challenge after another at us, the best defense is often to go inward. It's about finding that space of inner peace, of grounding ourselves in our truth and refusing to let external circumstances dictate our emotional state. Similarly, when internal attacks begin to take hold, when the voice of fear or doubt tries to convince us that we're not enough, we can counteract them with affirmations of our strength, our worth, and our ability to overcome. Internal peace doesn't mean we're immune to the storms of life, but it means we have the tools to navigate them without losing ourselves along the way. In addition to negative thoughts, another sign of spiritual attack is a feeling of spiritual dryness or disconnection. This is when you suddenly feel far removed from your sense of purpose, faith, or connection to something greater than yourself. If you've ever experienced a time when you just couldn't find the energy to pray, meditate, or engage in the practices that once brought you peace, you know what this feels like. It's like your spiritual batteries have drained, and no matter what you do, you can't seem to recharge. You might feel distant from God, the universe, or your sense of inner peace, and even though you may long for connection, it feels like something is blocking that flow. This sense of spiritual desolation can leave you feeling abandoned, unmoored, and disconnected from the very source of strength and guidance you once relied on. Physical fatigue or unexplained exhaustion is also a powerful sign of a spiritual attack. You might feel physically drained even when you've had enough sleep or rest. The weariness feels different from just a normal tiredness. It's a deep, bone-deep fatigue that seems to resist all efforts to rejuvenate. It's the kind of exhaustion that weighs on your body and mind, leaving you feeling incapable of doing the things you once enjoyed or felt passionate about. Spiritual attacks often work on multiple levels, affecting your body as much as your mind and spirit, creating a cascade of feelings of helplessness and lack of energy. The fatigue can make it difficult to maintain your normal routine, and it may leave you feeling mentally foggy or unable to concentrate, compounding your sense of helplessness. Another important sign is an increase in emotional instability, moments when your emotions swing wildly or you feel like you're constantly on edge. One minute, you might feel fine, and the next you're overwhelmed with anger, sadness, or frustration. These emotions seem to come out of nowhere, and you may find yourself reacting more intensely than usual over things that wouldn't normally affect you. Spiritual attacks often aim to destabilize our emotions, causing us to feel like we're losing control of our inner state. This emotional turbulence can make it hard to connect with others or maintain healthy relationships, as you might feel irritable, distant, or withdrawn. It can also leave you feeling disconnected from your true self, as if your emotions are no longer in alignment with who you really are. One of the most subtle signs of a spiritual attack is a sense of isolation. You may start to feel like no one understands you or that you are completely alone in your struggles. Even if you're surrounded by people, you may feel emotionally distant, as though you're an outsider looking in. This feeling of isolation can make you more vulnerable to negative thinking and self-doubt as you start to believe that no one can help or support you in your time of need. The enemy thrives in isolation, and when you feel cut off from others, it becomes easier to believe the lies that are being whispered to you. You may withdraw, pulling away from family, friends, or support networks, creating a dangerous spiral where loneliness and despair begin to grow. Finally, one of the clearest signs of a spiritual attack is when everything in your life seems to suddenly go wrong all at once. It might feel like a string of bad luck or unfortunate events that start piling up, one after another, leaving you feeling overwhelmed and out of control. This could be anything from small inconveniences to major crises, health problems, financial struggles, relationship issues, or even a series of personal failures. You might find yourself thinking, why is this happening to me? Why is everything falling apart? These events, while they may seem like just part of life's ups and downs, can also be a sign that you're under spiritual attack. The intensity and frequency of these challenges can be overwhelming, making you feel like you're being targeted in ways you can't control. Recognizing these signs early is essential because it gives you the opportunity to respond before the attack overwhelms you. When you feel these subtle or obvious signs creeping in, whether it's confusion, fear, negative thoughts, emotional instability, or a feeling of spiritual dryness, it's a call to action. It's time to pause, reflect, and take steps to protect your mind, body, and spirit. Through prayer, self-care, reaching out for support, or simply grounding yourself in your inner strength and faith, you can begin to dismantle the attack and regain your peace. Awareness is the first step in reclaiming your power, because once you recognize the signs, you can begin to take action and protect yourself from further harm. In the midst of daily life, it can be easy to get caught up in the noise, the constant stream of information, the opinions of others, the pressures of expectations, and the demands of the world around us. Without discernment, we can become overwhelmed, pulled in different directions, or influenced by forces that don't align with our values or our true calling. But discernment provides us with the ability to sift through all the noise, to tune into what feels right, and to make choices that reflect the truth of who we are. Discernment is particularly important when it comes to recognizing spiritual influences, whether they are positive or negative. The world is full of distractions and forces that seek to influence our minds and hearts, and without discernment, it's easy to be misled. We can be caught up in situations, relationships, or mindsets that drain our energy, lead us off course, or cloud our judgment. Discernment helps us to filter out what's not serving our highest good and to stay aligned with what truly nourishes us. It helps us recognize when something is off, whether it's a relationship that feels toxic, an opportunity that doesn't feel right, or a situation that doesn't align with our values. One of the key elements of discernment is the ability to distinguish between the voice of truth and the voice of deception. There are many forces in the world that seek to lead us astray, whether it's fear, doubt, negativity, or outside influences. These forces can distort our perception, cloud our judgment, and cause us to make choices that don't serve our highest good. When we are discerning, we are able to differentiate between what is authentic and true and what is false or misleading. It's not always easy, because deception often comes dressed in attractive packages, whether in the form of promises of success, validation, or external approval. But discernment helps us recognize when something doesn't feel right, when it's not aligned with our inner truth, or when it's simply too good to be true. Developing discernment requires practice and patience. It's not something that happens overnight, but rather something that is cultivated over time. One of the first steps in developing discernment is becoming more attuned to our own inner voice, the voice of our intuition, which often speaks quietly but clearly if we are willing to listen. Our intuition is a powerful tool for discerning the truth, and it communicates with us in many ways through gut feelings, subtle nudges, or a deep sense of knowing that something is right or wrong. The more we learn to trust this inner guidance, the more we can rely on it to help us navigate life's challenges and choices. Another important aspect of discernment is self-awareness. The more we understand ourselves, our values, our desires, and our sense of purpose, the easier it becomes to discern what's aligned with our true self and what's not. When we are clear about who we are and what we want, we can more easily recognize when something doesn't feel right or when we're being pulled in a direction that doesn't serve our highest good. Self-awareness gives us the clarity to know when to say yes and when to say no, when to move forward and when to pause, and when to trust ourselves and when to seek guidance. Discernment also involves developing a deep connection to our spiritual practices, whether that's prayer, meditation, mindfulness, or simply spending time in silence. These practices create the space for us to connect with our higher selves, to listen to our inner wisdom, and to receive guidance from the divine. When we're deeply connected to our spiritual source, our discernment is sharpened. We can feel the difference between the peaceful, calm energy of truth and the anxious, unsettling energy of confusion or fear. Spiritual practices allow us to center ourselves and gain perspective on the challenges we face, helping us to discern the best path forward. The ability to discern also helps us recognize spiritual attacks or negative influences that may be affecting our mental, emotional, or spiritual state. Spiritual attacks often come in subtle forms: negative thought patterns, unhealthy relationships, or situations that seem to drain us of energy or peace. Discernment allows us to recognize these influences before they take root, so that we can take proactive steps to protect our minds and spirits. It helps us to see when fear, doubt, or confusion is being used to mislead us, so we can counteract those forces with truth, faith, and clarity. When we develop our discernment, we begin to navigate life with a sense of confidence and peace. We stop second-guessing ourselves, and we learn to trust the guidance we receive from within. We recognize when something isn't in alignment with our truth, and we have the courage to act accordingly. Discernment empowers us to make decisions that reflect our highest values, to protect our peace, and to live in a way that's authentic and aligned with our purpose. The power of discernment doesn't just help us avoid pitfalls or negative influences, it also allows us to embrace opportunities that align with our path. It helps us recognize when something is truly a blessing, a sign of divine guidance, or a door opening for us. With discernment, we can step forward with clarity, knowing that we are making choices that are in alignment with our highest good and our spiritual truth. Ultimately, discernment is a skill that we can cultivate throughout our lives. It's not just about making the right decisions in the moment, it's about learning to listen, to trust, and to respond with wisdom and grace. It allows us to live with intention, to navigate challenges with peace, and to walk a path that is true to who we are. When we develop the power of discernment, we can face life's uncertainties with confidence, knowing that we have the inner tools to guide us toward our highest purpose. Faith plays a crucial role in our spiritual protection, acting as both a shield and a guiding light that helps us navigate the challenges and uncertainties of life. It's a deep, unwavering trust in something greater than ourselves, a force that can provide comfort, strength, and safety in the midst of trials. When we face adversities, whether external challenges or internal struggles, faith becomes the anchor that holds us steady, preventing us from being swept away by fear, doubt, or despair. But faith isn't just passive trust, it's an active force that works within us to shield our minds, hearts, and spirits from harm. When spiritual attacks occur, whether in the form of fear, doubt, anxiety, or negativity, faith acts as a buffer against those harmful influences. It helps to shield our minds from the onslaught of negative thoughts and emotions that can pull us off course. For example, when we face difficult circumstances, whether it's a personal crisis, a relationship challenge, or an unexpected setback, it's easy to become overwhelmed by feelings of fear, hopelessness, or inadequacy. But faith empowers us to see beyond the temporary situation. It reminds us that we are not defined by our challenges and that we are not alone in our struggles. Faith reminds us that we are part of a larger divine plan, and that even in moments of hardship, we are being held, protected, and guided by something greater than ourselves. Faith also provides us with the courage to stand firm in the face of opposition. In a world where negativity, criticism, and external pressures can sometimes feel all-consuming, faith helps us to remain grounded and unwavering in our truth. It gives us the inner strength to stand tall in our beliefs and to hold on to our sense of self-worth, even when others may try to undermine us or when the world around us seems hostile. Faith can help us protect our peace and maintain a sense of calm amidst the storm. When we believe that we are divinely protected, it becomes easier to reject the lies, fears, and doubts that threaten to disrupt our peace of mind. Moreover, faith works in tandem with our actions. While faith is deeply spiritual, it's also practical. When we trust in the protective power of faith, we are more likely to take steps that reflect that belief. Faith inspires action, guiding us to make decisions that are aligned with our highest good. It prompts us to take protective measures, whether that's setting healthy boundaries, walking away from toxic relationships, or choosing to engage in practices that nurture our spiritual well-being. Faith helps us to recognize the areas of our lives where we need to take action to safeguard ourselves, while also giving us the strength to act from a place of peace and confidence rather than fear. One of the most powerful ways faith offers protection is through the sense of divine connection it fosters. When we truly believe in something greater than ourselves, whether we call it God, the universe, or a higher power, faith creates an unbreakable bond between us and that divine source. This connection is like an invisible shield that surrounds us, offering protection against negative influences and energies. With faith, we become less susceptible to the spiritual attacks that might otherwise derail us, because we trust that we are never truly alone and that we are being guided and protected at every step. Faith also strengthens our resilience. Life's challenges are inevitable, but faith helps us bounce back when things go wrong. When we face difficulties, setbacks, or moments of spiritual attack, faith allows us to see them not as permanent obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. It helps us to understand that hardships are part of the journey, but they do not define us or determine our outcome. With faith, we can view obstacles as stepping stones, knowing that we have the ability to overcome anything because we are supported by a higher power. This resilience is a form of protection because it prevents us from being consumed by despair and helps us rise above our circumstances with grace and strength. In addition, faith allows us to cultivate a positive mindset and to align ourselves with positive energy. When we are rooted in faith, we are more likely to focus on the good in our lives and the blessings that surround us. This positive mindset acts as a protective barrier against negativity, fear, and pessimism. When we focus on the abundance in our lives rather than the lack, we invite more of that energy into our experience. Faith shifts our focus from what could go wrong to what is going right, and this shift in perspective becomes a powerful protective force in our lives. Another profound way faith provides protection is through prayer or meditation. These practices are not only spiritual tools for connecting with the divine, but they also serve as a form of spiritual armor. Prayer can shield us from negativity, affirm our trust in divine protection, and create a space where we can feel safe and secure. Meditation similarly helps us quiet the mind and connect with our inner wisdom, fostering a deep sense of peace and protection from external stressors. Both practices help us cultivate inner strength and spiritual clarity, enabling us to ward off negative influences and to stay centered in the face of challenges. Self-care and mindfulness practices are powerful tools that can help us maintain emotional balance, mental clarity, and physical well-being, especially in the face of life's challenges. In a world that often demands so much of us, we can easily become overwhelmed, drained, or disconnected from our own needs. Taking the time for self-care and mindfulness isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity for living a healthy and fulfilling life. These practices serve as a way to nurture ourselves, replenish our energy, and cultivate inner peace, making it easier to face life's ups and downs with resilience and grace. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is the practice of being fully present and engaged in the moment without judgment. It involves bringing our awareness to the here and now rather than getting lost in worries about the future or regrets about the past. Mindfulness helps us step out of automatic pilot and become more conscious of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It encourages us to observe ourselves with curiosity and compassion without criticism or judgment. When we practice mindfulness, we cultivate the ability to see things as they are, without the distortion of negative thought patterns or emotional reactivity. This practice of awareness can be especially transformative because it allows us to become more in tune with our own needs, desires, and emotional states, making it easier to make decisions that align with our true well-being. Together, self-care and mindfulness form a potent combination. Self-care nourishes us physically, emotionally, and spiritually, while mindfulness helps us become more aware of our needs and our state of being. Through mindfulness, we can recognize when we're stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed and respond to those feelings with greater clarity and compassion. When we're more aware of our emotional landscape, we can choose self-care practices that specifically address the areas where we need healing or restoration. One of the most impactful self-care practices is simply learning to rest. In today's society, where hustle and productivity are often prioritized over relaxation, it can be hard to allow ourselves to truly rest. But rest is essential for mental and physical rejuvenation. It's in these moments of stillness that our bodies and minds can heal and regenerate. Taking time to rest doesn't necessarily mean sleeping, though sleep is certainly an important aspect of self-care. It can also mean taking a break from work or obligations, stepping away from technology, and allowing ourselves to just be. A moment of peace, whether it's a quiet cup of tea or a walk in nature, can help reset our nervous system and restore our sense of calm. Equally important is the practice of nurturing our bodies through movement. Whether it's yoga, dancing, walking, or simply stretching, moving our bodies helps to release pent-up tension and stress. Movement also improves circulation, boosts endorphins, and promotes a sense of vitality. When we practice mindfulness while moving, such as paying attention to our breath or the sensations in our body, it creates a deeper connection between mind and body. This helps to reduce stress and increase our overall sense of well-being. Mindfulness also extends to how we eat. Eating mindfully involves being present with the experience of eating, rather than rushing through meals or eating on autopilot. It means savoring each bite, paying attention to the flavors, textures, and smells of our food. Mindful eating encourages us to listen to our bodies and eat when we're truly hungry rather than out of boredom or emotional distress. By practicing mindfulness around food, we can make healthier choices, avoid overeating, and develop a deeper appreciation for the nourishment we receive. Another powerful aspect of self-care is cultivating emotional well-being through practices like journaling, affirmations, and positive self-talk. Writing in a journal helps us process our thoughts and feelings, allowing us to release emotional tension and gain clarity. It's a safe space to express ourselves honestly and without judgment. Affirmations or positive statements that reinforce our worth, abilities, and potential can be transformative. When we repeat affirmations regularly, they help shift our mindset from one of scarcity or self-doubt to one of abundance and self-love. Affirming our own strength and resilience fosters a sense of confidence and protection from negative influences. Positive self-talk, too, is an important tool in self-care. It involves being kind and compassionate with ourselves, especially in moments when we feel stressed or overwhelmed. Instead of criticizing ourselves or focusing on our shortcomings, we can choose to offer words of encouragement and understanding. Another key component of self-care is setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries protect our energy and help us avoid burnout. This could mean saying no to obligations that drain us, limiting our exposure to negative people or environments, or carving out time for ourselves amidst busy schedules. Boundaries are essential for maintaining our emotional health and ensuring that we can give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. It's important to remember that setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, and it also helps to cultivate respect from others. Mindfulness is especially effective when combined with meditation, a practice that allows us to go even deeper into stillness. Meditation helps us quiet the mind, release unnecessary thoughts, and return to a state of inner peace. It has been shown to reduce stress, enhance focus, improve emotional regulation, and even promote better sleep. Through meditation, we can learn to observe our thoughts without getting caught up in them. This detachment from the mind allows us to create space for inner calm and clarity, which ultimately protects us from external stresses and inner turmoil. Being present with our emotions is also an important part of mindfulness. Many of us are conditioned to suppress or avoid difficult emotions like sadness, anger, or fear, but mindfulness teaches us to acknowledge and sit with these feelings without judgment. Instead of resisting them, we can allow ourselves to fully experience our emotions and then release them. This process helps us prevent emotional buildup, which can lead to stress or burnout. By accepting our emotions and letting them pass through us, we foster a sense of emotional resilience and balance. Ultimately, self-care and mindfulness practices are acts of self-love that allow us to stay grounded, present, and in tune with our needs. They give us the space to reflect, heal, and regenerate so that we can move through life with greater ease, focus, and peace. They also help us protect ourselves from the distractions and stressors that can pull us away from our true center. In nurturing ourselves, we create a strong foundation from which we can handle whatever challenges life may throw our way, knowing that we have the tools to care for our body, mind, and spirit with love, compassion, and attention. The healing power of positive affirmations lies in their ability to rewire our thoughts, reshape our beliefs, and transform our emotional and mental landscapes. At their core, affirmations are simple statements that reflect the positive reality we wish to create in our lives. They can be as simple as "I am worthy of love" or "I am capable of overcoming challenges," but these words carry an incredible force when repeated with intention and belief. Through consistent use, positive affirmations have the power to shift our mindset, build inner strength, and foster a deeper sense of self-love and confidence. Our thoughts are powerful. They shape our perceptions of ourselves, others, and the world around us. In fact, studies show that the average person has thousands of thoughts each day, many of them negative or self-critical. Over time, these thoughts can create mental patterns that undermine our confidence, reinforce feelings of inadequacy, and perpetuate cycles of anxiety or fear. Negative self-talk, like "I'm not good enough" or "I always fail," can become so ingrained that we start to believe these thoughts are truths even if they're not. This is where positive affirmations come in. They act as a counterforce to these negative patterns. This is the essence of the healing power of affirmations. They help to reprogram the subconscious mind, which is responsible for many of our automatic thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's true or false, what's real or imagined. It simply accepts whatever we repeatedly tell it. This means that by consciously choosing to feed it positive, supportive affirmations, we can begin to reshape our self-image and sense of identity. This process can lead to profound healing, especially for individuals who have struggled with negative self-talk, trauma, or low self-esteem. Affirmations also create a shift in our emotional state. Emotions are deeply connected to our thoughts, and when we consistently focus on positive, uplifting statements, our emotions begin to reflect that shift. For example, if you constantly tell yourself, "I am capable and strong," your emotions will begin to align with this belief, and you may feel more confident, empowered, and resilient. Conversely, if you affirm thoughts of doubt or fear, your emotional state will mirror that negativity. The beauty of affirmations is that they not only transform how we think, but also how we feel, helping us cultivate a mindset of peace, optimism, and self-compassion. The practice of positive affirmations is also deeply healing because it fosters a sense of self-empowerment. Many people grow up internalizing messages from the world around them, messages that can be limiting, critical, or disempowering. These messages can come from family, peers, society, or even past experiences, but affirmations remind us that we have the power to define who we are, what we believe, and what we are capable of achieving. Affirmations invite us to take control of our narrative and empower us to create the reality we desire, free from the limitations of past programming. The healing power of affirmations extends to physical health as well. When we affirm positive beliefs about our bodies, we create a mindset of health and vitality. The mind-body connection is incredibly strong, and when we consistently tell ourselves that we are healthy, strong, and capable of healing, we help to reduce stress and promote physical well-being. For instance, affirming, "I am healthy and my body is healing," can shift the focus from pain or illness to the possibility of recovery and vitality. Positive affirmations help lower stress levels, boost the immune system, and improve overall well-being by fostering a mindset of healing and wholeness. Another powerful aspect of affirmations is their ability to keep us focused on the present moment and the positive aspects of our lives. So often we can become consumed by worries about the future or regrets from the past, but affirmations remind us of what we have in this moment. By focusing on the present, affirmations bring our awareness to our strengths, resources, and capabilities, allowing us to fully engage with life as it is, rather than being trapped in negative thought spirals. For example, affirming, "I am grateful for the blessings in my life," shifts our focus away from what's lacking and toward what's abundant. For those facing specific challenges, whether it's career-related, financial, relational, or emotional, affirmations can serve as a source of strength and encouragement. When we feel overwhelmed by life's obstacles, affirmations provide a gentle reminder that we have the resources within us to navigate difficulties. They serve as a compass, guiding us back to our center when we've lost our way. Repeating statements like, "I am capable of handling any challenge that comes my way," or "every obstacle is an opportunity for growth," can shift our perspective, turning setbacks into lessons and challenges into stepping stones towards success. Forgiveness is another powerful tool in reclaiming peace. Holding onto grudges, anger, or resentment ties us to past hurts and prevents us from experiencing inner peace in the present. Whether we're holding on to grudges against others or ourselves, this emotional baggage weighs us down and keeps us stuck in a state of unrest. Forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior or forgetting the past, it's about releasing the emotional hold that resentment has on us. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the grip of anger and make room for peace to return. Forgiveness is a process and it can take time, but it is essential for healing and reclaiming our peace. It's not just a gift we give to others, it's a gift we give to others, it's a gift we give to ourselves. Another important aspect of reclaiming peace is creating a peaceful environment. The spaces we inhabit have a profound effect on our state of mind. Clutter, noise, and chaos in our environment can contribute to feelings of stress and overwhelm. By creating a serene and calming space, whether it's at home, at work, or in our personal life, we cultivate an environment that supports our mental and emotional well-being. This might involve decluttering our physical space, adding elements that bring us joy and relaxation, such as plants or calming colors, or simply ensuring that we have time each day to enjoy a peaceful environment without distractions. Reclaiming your peace is also about reclaiming your energy. Energy is precious, and it's easy to give it away to things, people, and situations that drain us. Reclaiming your peace means learning to protect your energy and conserve it for what truly matters. It's about choosing to spend time with people who lift you up, engaging in activities that bring you joy, and learning to say no to things that deplete your vitality. By managing our energy wisely, we ensure that we have the strength and emotional resilience to maintain our peace no matter what life throws our way. Ultimately, reclaiming your peace is a choice, a conscious decision to prioritize your well-being and to step into your own power. It's a commitment to making space for calm, clarity, and healing, even in the midst of life's chaos. It's a journey of self-awareness, self-love, and self-compassion, and it requires patience and practice. But by choosing peace, setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness, and letting go of what no longer serves us, we can reclaim the inner stillness that is always available to us, no matter what challenges we face. Peace is not something that happens to us, it's something we cultivate within ourselves every day.